Hi guys, so today I just wanted to do a quick video of my first trimester, so just a little update or how it's going video. So if you see me looking down, I'm just looking at my notes here. So I found out I was pregnant at 3 weeks and 4 days. I had taken an at-home pregnancy test. It looked positive. I also had a doctor's appointment already scheduled for that day. It wasn't for anything fertility related. I was just going to get like my yearly exam. So I just when I got there, I mentioned to them that I had gotten a positive pregnancy test and they tested my urine. I had also picked up another pregnancy test on my way to the doctor that morning because I kind of wanted to test again. I don't know why, but I did. That was the first appointment. They did just, my exam, which is what I was initially there for. They did the urine test and they also did blood work that day to test my HCG levels, and then I went 2 more times after that to get 2 more blood draws to test my HCG levels. So at that time, I didn't have any symptoms at all. The second appointment was scheduled for 5 weeks and 5 days. At that appointment, they did an ultrasound and they were able to see the yolk sac. Which was what they expected to be able to see based on my last cycle. So I was measuring on time basically at that appointment. I did start having headaches at the beginning of the 5th week, and that was pretty much the only symptom that I was having. I did mention it to the doctor that day at the appointment, and he asked about my caffeine intake, if I normally drink caffeine every day, which I don't necessarily, especially I don't really drink coffee every day. I don't really drink caffeine every day, but I do drink it several times a week maybe. So he told me he wanted me to start trying to drink a little caffeine every day, which was fine. FYI, that didn't work. But the headaches at that time was the only symptom that I was having. My third appointment was at 7 weeks and 4 days. They did another ultrasound, and this time they were able to see baby and they were able to hear the heartbeat. It was 140. The only symptoms that I was having at that time, I was still having the headaches every day. I woke up with the headache and I went to sleep with the headache. It didn't get worse. It didn't get better. It didn't change positions. It was always just seemed like the exact same headache. Before I got pregnant, I was working with a trainer and I was also intermittent fasting. So I wasn't eating until 1 p.m. And around 7 weeks, I did start feeling hungry earlier. So I wasn't intermittent fasting anymore. I was eating breakfast. So basically I would wake up hungry. I wouldn't wake up like starving, but I would wake up hungry, which I normally didn't. I would start to get hungry maybe around 11 and I would push it until 1, and that's when I would eat. So my appetite increased, I suppose you could say, because I was getting hungry earlier. So other than increased appetite and the headache, I wasn't having any other symptoms at that time. I mentioned the headaches again to the doctor, and he told me to keep drinking a little caffeine every day and to increase my water intake. Neither of those things worked. I still had the headache. So the 4th appointment was with my new doctor. That was at 8 weeks and 2 days. They did not do an ultrasound at that appointment. They just, we just discussed some things, history and that sort of thing. Because of the first 3 pregnancies that I'd had and lost, they did want me to see a specialist as well. So they set me up with the specialist. I did mention the headaches again with the new doctor, and so they took my blood pressure again, which was normal, and it had been normal. And I asked about like having my glucose levels checked. I hadn't had any problems with my glucose levels in the past, but because I have PCOS, I know that insulin resistance could be an issue. So I was wondering if maybe that's where the headaches were coming from. So they checked my A1C, and we also did the sugary drink test. Both of those came back normal, so it wasn't my blood pressure and it wasn't my glucose levels. And that was done at the 8-week and 2-day appointment. We discussed that at 12 weeks, the doctor wanted me to start taking a low dose of aspirin every day. We discussed having the 3 cardiolipin tests done, just because, again, there was still no determination as to why I lost the first 3 pregnancies. So they did do blood work to test the 3 cardiolipins, and that test, they all came back normal as well. At the end of week 7, I did have some light cramping and spotting. It was really light. I mentioned that to the doctor also. She said it was normal based on how I described it. It was really light. It was really light. So she said that was normal and it wasn't anything to be concerned with, unless, you know, if the cramping was bad or if the spotting had increased, then they would have concern. So that was all for my week 8 appointment. They scheduled me with the specialist. We checked my blood pressure. Again, it was normal. We checked my glucose levels. They were normal. We did the 3 cardiolipin tests. They were also normal. And so at that point, everything was looking pretty good, besides the headaches never going away. So my 5th appointment was scheduled for 12 weeks and 2 days. They did do an ultrasound at that appointment. Baby still looked normal. They were still able to see the heartbeat. It was 154. So there was nothing really, there was no major update with baby. Baby was thriving and doing perfectly fine. I still had the headache. So we discussed that. They prescribed me a migraine medication, which I didn't think that it was a migraine because I didn't have like any light sensitivity or anything like that. I mean, yes, the light annoyed me just because I had a headache, but it wasn't like, I didn't seem more sensitive based on the light. The headache didn't get worse or better based on the light. So I actually didn't think that it was a migraine, but I was willing to try the migraine medication because I wanted the headache to go away. So we also discussed that if the migraine medication did not work, they would give me a referral to see a neurologist. They basically just wanted to rule out any of the big things, and if everything was fine with the neurologist, then the assumption would just be that it was a hormonal headache and there wasn't much that could be done about that. During week 9, I started to get a little nauseous, but only if I allowed myself to get too hungry. Other than that, I didn't have any nausea. And I wouldn't say that foods necessarily made me nauseous. It was more like there were a lot of foods that I normally would like that just sounded really nasty to me. It didn't sound appetizing. I didn't want it. But it didn't make me feel like I wanted to vomit or anything like that. So I only felt nauseous mostly when I would allow myself to get too hungry. I did get a lot more picky, I suppose, A lot of things, like I said, did not sound good to me. I was pretty tired. I was sleeping a lot during this time. I don't necessarily think that I was sleeping a lot because I was sleepy, because that's not generally why I would lay down. I didn't say like, oh, I feel so tired, I'm gonna lay down, or anything like that. It was mostly like my head is hurting really bad and I want to lay down. So that was generally why I would lay down and end up sleeping a lot. I wasn't getting a lot done. The headache was nonstop. It was hard to get anything accomplished throughout the day because the headache just didn't go away. It wasn't like I could say, okay, well, I'm gonna try to do things in between the headache, and when it goes away, I'm gonna try to get things done, and when it comes back, I'll lay down, because it literally didn't go away. It was a constant headache. So those were my only symptoms during that time. And I wouldn't say that, I suppose chicken was a food aversion. I could eat chicken, not really. I was having some food aversions, specifically with meat, chicken particularly. It just didn't sound good. I didn't like handling it. I didn't handle it. I tried to make it once. I did make it, and then I couldn't even eat it. It just sat in the refrigerator for days until I just threw it away. So those were my only symptoms for that time, and nothing changed before I entered the second trimester. So that was the first trimester. I suppose it was good. I don't have anything to compare it to since I hadn't made it this far in any of my other pregnancies. It wasn't what I expected necessarily. I definitely didn't think that I would have a headache for that much time. I thought that I would have been a lot more nauseous and things, but I wasn't. The hardest part about the first trimester for me was there was, in between appointments, there's no indication on, how the baby is doing, if baby is still growing and thriving or not. So for me, that was the hardest part of the first trimester, was just those in-between appointment stages. So how was everyone else's first trimester? Did you guys feel a lot of nausea? Just leave a comment down below. I know my siblings that were pregnant, they had a lot of nausea during their pregnancies. One, she had it throughout her whole pregnancy. So that is all for the first trimester. I will include some videos and photos that I have from that time. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. If you liked the video, like, comment, and subscribe. Bye guys.